overreach that causes a decline of an empire, and we're going in that same route.
We'll be talking tomorrow, by the way, about the latest news with what's going on in Afghanistan and Pakistan in our 4 o'clock hour, sort of playing off what you just said there, because I think a lot of people are trying to figure out what is going on. Some of the discussion will also be about what's happening in Iraq. By the way, before we go to the next caller, what are you forecasting about the troop movements and our military activity in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in Pakistan, in Iran? What are you saying is going to happen there?
Well, it's what President Eisenhower said when he was leaving office. And I remember, this is the Supreme Commander of the Allied Forces in World War II, two-term Republican president, and he warns the American people that the military-industrial complex, as he's leaving office, is taking over the country. I mean, these are just endless wars, and they're senseless. I mean, you don't even have to be a historian to look back to see how the Russians got creamed in Afghanistan, how the English before them. And again, if Iraq's major export was broccoli, would we be there? Just like we're not in Sri Lanka right now. And how many people have died over the last several months? So it's just about oil pipelines, oil, power, and Pakistan is, when they assassinated Benazir Bhutto, Zardi's wife, people knew that this thing was going to devolve into what it is. It's an endless pit, an endless cycle, and it goes back to the founding fathers, not to get involved in foreign entanglements.
Derek in Round Lake, we go to you. We have some lines open for you listening at 800-486-8655. Gerald Celente, our guest from the Trends Research Institute. Derek, hello to you.
Hello, Ben. Hello, Mr. Valente. I, as an avid reader of the international media, I've been following the current economic situation and how it's being described overseas. And I think what you're saying specifically about gold and how this whole issue is really kind of came about, I think it's absolutely correct. That's what Europeans and Japanese and Chinese are even writing about. What I think is very troubling is that the current plan by Geithner is there's absolutely silence on this. There's absolutely nothing's explained, no details explained. What the Repubblica Italian newspaper has written, the biggest ripoff in the modern history of any country by any taxpayers whatsoever. And I think what's also very troubling about the situation is that there was a report in Tagesspiegel about 2 weeks ago about the U.S. government has set up some currency swap derivatives lines of credit where, in order to stabilize the currencies, the American banks will be able to use Federal Reserve in order to actually buy foreign currencies. And there's a very interesting report stating that 500 euro notes, there's a huge shortage in Europe there right now, since Goldman Sachs has been sucking them out from the European market, and the individual European member bank countries simply cannot print them fast enough.
Derek, I have to leave you there, and I'll get some comment from Gerald Celente and back to some other callers.
Well, first of all, Derek is I agree with him. This is the biggest ripoff that we've ever seen in our lifetimes. From Bush to now, they have been preaching all my life about free market capitalism, and you either make it or break it on your own. And now, of course, with this mantra of too big to fail, and as I mentioned, that's a lot of nonsense when you look at the facts.
I'm going to stop you. You've said that a couple of times, and we've had a lot of people on who talk about the idea of too big to fail. We've talked about with AIG, but I want to talk to you more about GM and Chrysler, because certainly in Wisconsin, people are feeling the domino effect of GM, sort of being like a wobbling fighter in the 15th round who barely has any semblance of balance left, about to go down for the count. Well, while that's going on, the plant in Janesville that gets closed has a domino effect for what happens to the other businesses in Janesville. In addition to the Janesville's factory closing, you've got the other businesses that support the auto industry.
You can't support failure, whether it's personal, whether it's financial, or whether it's corporate.
So you're saying it's better to let it all fall and rebuild.
But this is what the system was built and predicated upon, that has been shoved down our throat all our lives. By the way, someone who knew a thing or two about it called the merger of corporate and state powers fascism was Mussolini. This isn't nationalism, and it's not socialism. It's not egalitarianism. It's about bailing out the rich guys. Again, according to the definition, one of the many definitions, but by Mussolini, the merger of corporate and state power is fascism. When you study what went on, again, this is no secret to anybody when you look at GM, for example. Take Ed Lutz, he was the vice chairman. In our Trends Journal, we wrote about it in 2006 when he said something along the lines, it's not a definite quote, but very close to it, anyone that thinks that high gasoline prices are going to hurt SUV sales doesn't know what they're talking about. They've been, there's a quote attributed to Christ. I could heal the sick. I could make the lame walk and the blind see. But I, not even I, could save a fool from his foolishness. They've been producing dogs. They're producing terrible cars. They haven't been globally efficient. This is what capitalism is about. If you're going to play the game, but don't change the rules and then giving the money to your friends. I'll give you another example, Ben.
Give me one more. I got calls I want to get back to.
Okay, go
on. Give me the one more.
Oh, no. And in the front page of today's New York Times, I mentioned about the Timothy Geithner story where they go on and on and on about how brilliant this guy is. And there's a big picture in the front of a woman that's on unemployment, and she said something, she's wearing an Obama T-shirt. $50 more to an unemployed family is a lot. And that's the comparison that we're looking at. So the people are living on hope and delusion, while the real money, again, when they asked the Federal Reserve Chairman Bernanke, where's the money going? His answer was, quote, are you going to tell us? He said, no.
Will in Oak Creek. Good afternoon, Will.
Hello, Ben. How you doing?
Good. You?
I'm well. I'd called about something else to talk about cap and trade, but your guest just brought up another point I'd like to discuss briefly, if I could.
Yeah.
Well, the thing about cap and trade, and I know this because I've been working with these coal plants for a couple of years now, but the whole idea is to offset the construction costs. The lifespan of a power plant is about 50 years, nuclear or coal. The gas-fired plants last maybe 12 to 20. And they're expensive to build. We got plants around. I've talked with guys that worked in these shutdowns in Alabama and whatnot that tell me that there's parts in the generator that are stamped with a swastika because they were shipped from Nazi Germany back in the 40s. Those things are so old they should have been put out of service a long time ago, and they haven't built new ones. They got to build new ones before they can take the old ones out of service. And that's what cap and trade is all about.
And you have a question for Gerald, or you just wanted to comment on that?
Well, I just wanted to comment on that. The other thing that he brought up there was here over the past month, I was kind of looking around. I've been active on the blogs and whatnot. And I see a lot of people on the left like to call themselves progressives nowadays. But it's pretty clear they're not the intellectual heirs of William James. And people on the right like to refer to them as liberals, but it's pretty clear that they don't want anything to do with John Rawls either. And so I was looking for a term that would describe them accurately, and it finally came to me through something unrelated, which was psychology, the different schools of psychology. One of them is humanism, and reviewing the tenets of humanism. I think that's what the left is nowadays. They call themselves progressive, and that the right likes to call liberal. It's actually humanism.
Well, we'll leave it there to get some response, Gerald.
Well, I don't know enough to comment on it.
Well, then we'll move on, but we appreciate the call.